Well, hello everybody. Happy Thursday, the 16th of April. And tomorrow's date is 17. That one photo I shared the other day, that was at the date on the 17th. Something about 107 days or something. We got a rainy day today again, so we're stuck inside. I'm glad, Lucy, you got in here early today. That's good. You got a long day today? Today's Thursday, right? So oh, stop it. You don't have to say sir. Oh. How's your mom going to watch the shows, or is she going to be working all day? Is she going to be able to get on there and listen? And head to okay, change your color to my favorite color, blue. Oh, great. Is there a way you can get a hold of her? Yeah, she could just jumped on the couch. Ariel saying hi, buddy. Oh, he's cuddled up in a blanket. Okay. I'm going to see if Carol comes in so she can put the disclaimer in. Unless Flying Eagle comes in today. What? You're only 70. Are you sure it's not 07 instead of 70? I'll have Tim buy the cake for you. We do have a late Billy Bean now, okay? I sent it to you, I think. Oh, you making cookies for Kay's birthday tomorrow? We got a 35-minute Billy from last night. You guys. Guess who's speaking at Turning Point USA at 5 o'clock? Oh, no, wait. It's at 6 o'clock. So, Lucy, I hope you get home on time so your mom can watch that speech with Trump tonight at Turning Point USA. I'll send you the link. Oh wait, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow. Ooh.
Mixed
Oh, wait a minute. It's Lucy's birthday tomorrow? Oh, sorry, Kay. I thought it was your birthday. I got confused. Rose? So, Kay, you know what, Gateway Punding? Um, I just found out that they got clips of each person, like a comment. I don't know if you saw that, but I'll show it to you when I bring it up. That's kind of cool. I got a bunch of them. They're not very long. And we got two of the news guy. What's his name with the glasses? Still that lady from TikTok, Lucy. I don't know what happened yesterday. I hope she didn't get taken down. I know Derek Johnson has. I'm waiting for Carol to put the claimer up. You will. All right, just about go time here. 11:58, top of the hour. I'm 5'4", Tim. 6'4", 5'4". All right, it's showtime. Entertainment and opinions only. Hello, YouTube. Hopefully, Flying Eagle will be in. Nice, Carol. To the mail. 11 minutes. I don't think I think this one.
ballots, and day packages right to your door. And what a lot of people do not fully realize is that this is not just about whether stamps get a little more expensive. It is about whether the whole promise of reliable mail service can keep working the way people expect. So stay with me here because understanding what is happening could help you prepare for changes before they show up in your mailbox. And before we get into it, I want to ask you something simple. How often do you still check your mailbox and expect something important to be there? Even in a world where so much is online, let me know in the comments. So, when
Eva.
people hear that the Postal Service is in trouble, the first thought is usually something like, okay, are they just being dramatic or is this actually serious? And honestly, it is serious. Postal leadership has warned lawmakers that if things keep going the way they're going, the agency could run out of cash to keep operating the way it does now. That is a huge statement. This is not some new startup with a shaky business plan. This is one of the oldest institutions in the country, something people have counted on for generations. And the big problem, really, is that the Postal Service is trying to survive in a world that changed faster than its business model did. Back in 1970, Congress changed the old post office into a self financing agency. The basic idea was that it would mostly support itself by selling postage and services instead of being funded like a regular government department. At the time, that may have sounded reasonable. People mailed letters all the time. Bills, personal notes, and business documents came in the mail. First class mail was the financial engine that kept the whole system moving. But now, think about your own life. How many times do you pay a bill online, get a statement by email, sign a document digitally, or just send a text instead of a letter? That shift changed everything. The report says first class mail volume has fallen from 213 billion pieces in 2006 to about 109 billion today. That is not a small drop. That is a collapse in the Postal Service's most profitable line of business. And when you lose that much of your strongest revenue source, the rest of the structure starts shaking too. Now, at first you might say, well, hold on, people order packages all the time now, so shouldn't that make up the difference? And that is a fair question. Package delivery has grown because of online shopping. We all see that. But the problem is the Postal Service is competing in that space with major private companies like UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. And unlike some of those companies, USPS has rules, pricing limits, and service obligations that make it harder to operate like a pure profit driven business. So, yes, packages help, but they have not fully replaced what was lost when first class mail dropped so sharply. And that brings us to the part that affects regular people most directly: higher prices and possible service cuts. The Postal Service has proposed raising the price of a forever stamp from 78 cents to 82 cents, and there were even discussions internally about prices going higher. There is also an approved surcharge on packages because of fuel and transportation costs. So, right away, one possible effect on your mail is simple: sending things could cost more. Cards, letters, payments, small packages, all of that starts getting more expensive bit by bit. So then, 4 cents on a stamp may not sound like a big
7
deal.
minutes.
And for one letter, maybe it is not. But over time, when postage keeps rising, people and businesses start making choices. A small business might send fewer mailers. A family might stop mailing checks and move fully online. A nonprofit might cut back on
What do you
fundraising
guys think?
letters. And the problem there is kind of
The
circular.
mail
If higher
update?
prices push more people away from using the mail, then volume falls more, and then the pressure to raise prices again gets stronger. That is the loop officials and experts seem worried about. And there is another possibility that matters even more than stamp prices: slower or reduced service. One idea that has come up is cutting mail delivery from 6 days a week to five. The report says that could save up to $3.5 billion dollars a year. From a budget point of view, you can see why people bring it up. But from the public side, that is a major change in daily life. Imagine waiting an extra day for a medication shipment. Imagine legal papers, tax documents, benefit notices, or replacement credit cards taking longer to arrive. Imagine a check showing up late when you really needed it on time. That is where this goes from a policy conversation to something very personal. And also, it would not affect everyone equally. If you live in a city with lots of private delivery options, maybe you can work around some of it. But in rural areas, the Postal Service is often the backbone of delivery. It is not just one option among many. For some people, it is the option. If routes are cut, if post offices close, if delivery schedules get reduced, that can leave entire communities with fewer good alternatives. And that matters for older adults, for people with mobility issues, for veterans, for anyone who relies on mailed prescriptions or government paperwork. This is one of those cases where people can shrug it off until they picture the exact envelope they cannot afford to miss. Maybe it is your social security notice. Maybe it is Medicare information. Maybe it is an insurance form, a jury summons, a tax refund check, a bank replacement card, a ballot, or something from a family member. Mail can seem old fashioned until the one piece you need does not arrive when it should. And that is what makes this more than just a story about operations and budgets. Now, the Postal Service has not just been sitting there doing nothing, it has been using emergency measures to buy time. One major step is the temporary suspension of certain employer pension contributions, which is expected to free up about $2.5 billion this fiscal year.
Good then, better now.
What do you guys
6
think on
health
this update?
essentials in every bowl.
If I were him, I'd bundle my home and auto and pick up the real victory, savings.
Leadership argues
I
that
bet-
keeping enough cash on hand to keep the mail moving outweighs the longer term risk in that moment. In plain English, they're trying to keep the lights on. But that kind of move also tells you how serious the pressure is,
Okay.
because that is not a real fix in itself. That is more like pushing a bill off until next month because you need groceries today. It may be necessary, and it may even be understandable, but does not solve the deeper issue. The deeper issue is that the current system expects the Postal Service to behave like a self-supporting business while also acting like a universal public service that reaches everyone, no matter where they live. And those two goals do not always fit together neatly. That tension, honestly, may be the real heart of the whole thing. Should the Postal Service be judged like a company that has to make money, cut weak areas, and price aggressively? Or should it be treated like a national service that exists because the country needs it, even if that means stronger public support? Right now, it sits somewhere in the middle. It has a public mission, but it is expected to support itself far more than many public services do. And maybe that middle ground is exactly why it keeps running into trouble. And there's another human side to this that really stood out to me. Retired postal workers who have had delays getting benefits, with some people left waiting, confused, and struggling to cover everyday expenses. One retiree described it as waiting without anyone telling you what is going on. Another talked about how quickly you have to pay when you owe the system, but how slowly it can move when the system owes you. And I think that hits on something bigger. When a large institution gets financially and operationally strained, the effects do not stay in a spreadsheet. They show up in people's lives. So then, what could happen next? Well, a few paths are on the table. One is more borrowing authority. Leadership has suggested that the current borrowing cap is too low for the reality the agency faces now and that it may need to be raised significantly. Another is more pricing flexibility, meaning USPS could change prices more aggressively. Another is legislative reform, where Congress steps in again the way it did in 2022 when a law removed a major retiree health benefit burden from the agency's books. And another, of course, is service reductions, which may be the most visible and most painful route for the public. And here's where it gets a little tricky, because the administration and postal leadership are not saying these changes are being considered just because they want to shrink the service. Their basic argument is that they are dealing with hard math and limited options. In their view, this is not about ideology, it is about survival. If the mission is to keep universal mail service going, they argue, then the funding model has to match that mission. Otherwise, every year becomes another scramble. That is an important point, even if people disagree with the proposed solutions. At the same time, critics worry that if the response leans too heavily on higher prices and weaker service, the Postal Service could end up pushing away the very customers it needs. And that concern makes sense too. If you make mail slower and more expensive, some people will use it less. If they use it less, revenue pressure gets worse. So the danger is not just that cuts hurt in the short run, it is that they may speed up the long-term decline. And what does all this mean for you right now in practical terms? First, it means you should probably expect the chance of higher postage prices. Second, it means you may want to pay closer attention to anything important that still comes through the mail, especially medications, government forms, financial documents, and time-sensitive notices. Third, if you live in an area where mail service is already a little slower, it may be smart to build in extra time for anything important you send or expect to receive. And also, this may be one of those moments where being a little more proactive can save stress later. This is not just a government story or a budget story. It is a daily life story. If the Postal Service ends up raising prices, slowing delivery, cutting routes, or closing locations, those choices will show up in regular households first.
Hey. Wasn't sure about that, what they're going to say in that video. I can't remember if I played it or not. I don't think I have. Hey, we got a Walmart video. Not the lady from YouTube. We'll play Billy here in a little bit.
Wait, don't do it! What? We're checking them off. Machu Picchu swimming with.
Walmart is big changes to try to attract a new higher-end customer and bring them into their stores from places like Costco and Target with that and try to entice growth, not just in stores, but on Walmart Plus. With this, they're going to be redesigning many of its store brand great value products to make them more attractive. We'll tell you what's happening there and why. There's a bigger meaning behind this change and a bigger purpose than just a better looking, more modern refresh of the design. We're going to break this all down and give you my opinion on it. First, though, if you want to learn more about this, I'll put a link to the story I'm about to talk about in the show notes and in the first pinned comment so you can come up with your own opinions. You don't have to take my word from it. Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. But with that, we try to break down everything happening in the world. I've been a reporter for many years now. I own my own news organization with staff across the country. And here on my second YouTube channel, I often like to dive into stories like this I think have deeper meaning, a lot more going on under the surface, and take my experience as a reporter and try to help you with that and to make it more understandable. If you like that, please consider hitting that subscribe button or hitting that thumbs up. It really does help us because it lets YouTube know you enjoy what we do here. And with that said, let's dive into it. Walmart's great value brand seems like it's been around forever, but it actually launched back in the 1990s with this. And the great value brand is getting a refresh look. Now, in the story, I'll put a couple images there where you can look at how the old model and the current model looks. But Walmart is kind of kicking up their design a notch and giving them a fresh look. Now, this is probably something that Walmart spent millions of dollars on. And it's not just meant to, hey, make a product look better or more modern or fit the current market. But, there's probably, let's be honest, that's part of why they do it. But with this, great value is hoping to attract a higher end customer. Target in particular has been a big target of Walmart for some time. Target's been bleeding customers and Walmart's been trying to get them to come there. They've also been targeting Costco, trying to get people to leave Costco and come to Walmart more often to expand its growth. Walmart is experiencing a little trouble on the lower end of its customer base. The people who are looking for the best bargains have been switching to places like Aldi's, shopping online and doing other things to get their groceries and other products.
You guys okay with this guy?
So Walmart, it's been trying to expand its more higher end customers. We saw a big refresh of many of its stores, something that's not done that they're continuing to roll out. And now refreshing the brands is meant to make them more attractive to customers who are looking to spend more money, but also maybe save more than what they would by going to Costco or Target. Now, the Costco one's a little tougher, but Walmart's been expanding into more bulk items there and targeting people who maybe don't need 16 cases of whatever it is they're buying. They just need one. We'll see how this plays out. This is also meant to try to feed more people who come in and the higher end are more likely to subscribe to Walmart Plus to get the free delivery of products, but also to, take advantage of all the other benefits out there. Free streaming, free Peacock or Paramount Plus. You also get many other discounts like cheaper gas, free shipping, and more. It's been shown repeatedly that customers who subscribe to something like Walmart Plus are much more likely to spend more money with your business. Kind of locks you in and makes you more willing to shop there. Now, Walmart is hoping that by new look, refreshed stores that honestly look a little bit more like a Target, updated generic products with a lower price that can compete better with the name brand products, but also compete better with the brands like Kirkland brand or the Target brand out there, or Publix, or whoever it is maybe that they traditionally go for. Walmart's really staking a lot of money. It doesn't sound like a big thing to say, hey, we're just going to refresh the look of our generic great value products. But Walmart spent millions of dollars in testing, design, and review boards to make sure they're doing the right one. Now, with this, Walmart says that these updates will slowly roll out over the next few weeks, and it may even be the next few months before all the products are replaced in your stores. For one, they're going to sell out the current stock first before you see the new look, I should say, come replace the older. And you may see it on some products first and others later. You also may be surprised how many products Walmart has under its great value brand. It's not the only brand they have out there. They have other generic names. Now, these are often made by big name companies who agree to sell a cheaper version of their product. There's many different ways they do this. Maybe it's an older formula. Maybe it's not quite as many products per battery or per pack or different things to get a price down. Or maybe it's just that Walmart says, hey, if you strike us a deal, we'll buy 100 million cases of your product this year. And just the sheer bulk buying of it will help them get a big discount and keep their price lower. It also gives them sometimes favorable shelf space, where the great value products take up premium space with that and help them edge out their competitors in that field. Many stores have done this. Target, of course, very popular, has one, and Costco, of course, has a very popular Kirkland brand. But even small grocery stores are starting to get their own with that out there. The Sam's Club brand and more are also similar ones that Walmart owns. Keep an eye on this. It's a play to really revolutionize Walmart. They don't want to abandon the cheap discount customer, and these products will remain affordable products that can compete with the high cost of many other products out there. But they're really hoping by having a more aesthetically pleasing brand, aesthetically pleasing stores, more comfortable stores, they will attract the higher dollar shoppers who may have avoided them in the past, but as inflation continues to grow, may be looking for places that they can save some money and maybe reconsidering their shopping at Walmart. Because of that, that could help them expand the amount of stores out there and buyers in their stores with it. Walmart's got some other big competition coming up that they're sure going to fight. Amazon is launching a supercenter in Chicago first. That's basically a direct copy of a Walmart supercenter. Now, the exact name hasn't been announced, but in the suburbs of Chicago, they've already received approval to build the store. We'll watch that closely and see how it all plays out with it all. And we are going to see how Amazon competes with Walmart. Refreshing its brand now, getting ahead of the curve, updating its stores, helps Walmart be in a better position to address potential competition from Amazon. Already, Amazon is expanding where it does grocery delivery to more cities and more areas, allowing it to compete with Walmart. But physical superstores from Amazon could be interesting. They have a history of not doing too well with physical stores, but they got a lot of money, a dedicated customer base. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So leave me a comment. Let me know. Are you a fan of Walmart? Have you found yourself shopping there?
Okay, I wasn't sure about that one, you guys, but Carol said it was okay. Thanks, Carol. Next two will be the guy talks fast on YouTube with the glasses. 5 and a 9-minute one, and then we'll play Billy Bean after that.
2026. This is a report out of the House GOP, basically the Congress, both the upper and the lower houses. Remember Act Blue? James O'Keefe, a couple of years ago, exposed Act Blue for using small donors' information to funnel and launder huge amounts of money into the campaigns of Democratic candidates around the country. And basically, what was going on, and James O'Keefe actually went around knocking on doors. Ma'am, I have a report here that shows that you made some donations, $5 here, $10 there, over the last couple of years to a certain candidate, Democratic candidate, and the totals amount to a little over $250,000. That person that he interviewed on their doorstep said, I have never made that much in donations ever. I only donated $5 or $10 a couple of times. This is a major fraud scam by Act Blue and the CEO and the organization Act Blue to funnel foreign money into, and I'm not talking about a couple of million. I'm talking about several billions of dollars into Democrat candidates' campaigns, and they were using it all kinds of different ways. I'm going to read this to you right now. This is a mind blower, and the Congress just posted this just yesterday, April 14th. The House GOP leaders accuse Act Blue of using tactics to obstruct, and actually they use the word sneaky tactics, okay? Basically, it's obstruction to obstruct campaign finance fraud probe. Stay with me. This is out of Washington. 3 House Republican Committee chairmen accused Act Blue on Tuesday, of having deliberately obstructed their investigation into the Democratic fundraising platform following a bombshell report that suggested it misled Congress about its fraud safeguards during the 2024 election. It goes on. The leaders of the House Oversight, the House Judiciary, and the Administration Committees sent a letter to Act Blue CEO Regina Wallace-Jones that cited on April 2nd New York Times report revealing the platform withheld materials responsive to the committee's subpoenas back in July of 2025. More importantly, I want folks to understand how just tremendously serious this is. These congressional investigation and subpoenas are going to start indicting people. These are crimes of major proportions. People who are running campaigns here in America cannot take foreign money from any foreign entity. Also, Act Blue has obstructed this money, and not only have they obstructed the flow of money, they've basically taken information from previous donors over the years, and James O'Keefe exposed this a couple of years ago. You can actually watch James O'Keefe going and knocking on doors. And the people say, I never donated $250,000 to these people. Act Blue is the machine that is funding, I guess what you might say, funneling billions and billions and billions of dollars to Democratic candidates all over the country. It is fraud on a massive scale. And not only is it fraud, it is a crime. Ladies and gentlemen, this needs to be weeded out. The Department of Justice and these committees within our Congress are doing their job. Indictments will come down. I want folks to please go to Preserving America, EPAC.com. Watch our documentaries on Marxist political warfare. This is a part of the Marxist machine's efforts to cement the Democrats in power permanently in this country. That is their goal. They want a one-party system just like China. Rule by committee. Have one person at the head, like Chairman Xi, okay, or Xi or whatever his name is, and then have the Democrats be the only power in, I guess, the only party in power permanently for the next century. This is a crime against the people of major proportions. It is a major crime, funneling billions of dollars using other people's information on their credit cards. Watch as this plays out. This is
Okay, I got another one that's 9 minutes.
the 15th year of our Lord 2026. This is in response to what we're seeing kind of in Iran, but I want to make one thing really, really clear. For over 3 decades, the Muslim Brotherhood
We
in the
played it
Middle East
the other day.
and in America have been trying to establish a worldwide Muslim
He's on
caliphate or
TikTok.
Islamic
You have
caliphate.
TikTok?
And there is no question. And here's the point that I'm trying to make as serious as I possibly can. Back in 1979, when the Islamic group, or I guess the regime,
Yeah, he's
the
good.
IRGC, took over the state of Iran or the country of Iran, they immediately made threats. Death to America.
Yeah, try to get your Gmail so I can get your contact, and then I can figure out how we can send it through the phone. So I need to get your I sent you, mine, so we can exchange intel. I don't think I played this one because it says 15 hours. I don't think I played this one.
Death to America. There was people heard that, but it kind of like bounced off them. Donald Trump was listening. Our service members and intelligence community in the United States was listening. It took Donald Trump to take them seriously. These people, if they ever got, and they were just inches away from basically having a nuclear weapon and delivering it to another portion of the world, not maybe so much the United States, but Europe. They could hold Europe hostage. And listen to me very carefully. These people don't, I guess what you might say, don't think like us. When they make the threats, death to America, whatever, death to the West, they would drop the bomb first, then negotiate after. They don't think like us. I want to show you something. You probably can't see that very well, but this is from the front page of what's called the Investigative Project on Terrorism. A friend of mine, Stephen Emerson, made a documentary a few years ago, back in 2013, about the Muslim Brotherhood and their, I guess what you might say, influence, not just in the Middle East, but coming to America. Back in 1991, ladies and gentlemen, he made, Steve Emerson was all over this back in 1991. He is and has been for a number of years the world's, I guess, recognized leading authority on the Muslim Brotherhood. Back in 1991, the explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the Muslim Brotherhood in America was put together by the Muslim Brotherhood here in America. Then in 2004, the FBI, through a matter of, I guess, luck, actually discovered this explanatory memorandum. It was their strategic goal for the Muslim Brotherhood and its attack on the United States, and to establish a worldwide caliphate using political warfare. Then in 2013, my friend Stephen Emerson made this documentary, Jihad in America, The Grand Deception. If you go to YouTube, and I'm going to put, well, all you need to do is go to YouTube or search out Stephen Emerson's Jihad, the documentary, Jihad in America, The Grand Deception. You can watch it on YouTube for free. This is I guess what you might say, asymmetric, unconventional type of warfare that the Muslim Brotherhood in America is waging on this country, and they've joined up with the Marxist machine in this country to take this country down. And guess what? If they can do it, they will do it in a conventional type of way. If I may, Marxist political warfare, or the political warfare that the Muslim Brotherhood is trying to wage on this country, is using ballots, not the bullet. Now it is beginning, that's what's called unconventional. Now the Marxists and the Muslim Brotherhood are going to be beginning to go conventional. What does that mean? We see the Americans, conservatives, Christians, Americans on the streets are no longer safe. I want you to look into a statement or a term called muerto per la libertad. Now that's kind of off the page, but look into that. Muerto per la libertad. The Marxist machine in this country no longer will settle for an unconventional, asymmetric type of warfare. Neither will the Muslim Brotherhood. When they make threats like this, this is why Donald Trump is doing what he had to do with Iran right now. And we will win this, I guess, conflict. This, I guess, what you might say, operation. This is about establishing the balance of power in America's favor for the next century. We're watching, and I've talked about this for 2 years. If you go to preservingamericaepac.com, I'll put the clip in the link right here. And you can actually text me, or excuse me, you can email me. I'll put my email down there. I'm educated in Marxist political warfare, and my friend Stephen Emerson and I talk all the time about the Muslim Brotherhood's effect on this country. This is war, and it's going conventional. Look into muerto per la libertad. These people will not settle for ballots or an unconventional type of warfare, just, a political type of warfare, asymmetric, unconventional. Americans are starting, at this particular point, they're starting to literally fear for their lives, because many people in this country are starting to understand, especially that's one of the reasons they elected Donald Trump. They understand that people, the average American in this country, is no longer safe. Look what's happening. Look at the number of shootings by a specific group, a specific community. Look at what happened in Washington, D.C. 2 people walking out of a Jewish meeting were gunned down on the streets of D.C. 2 National Guards members. One was killed. I believe the other one was able to survive. They were gunned down by a jihadist in New York. This is just beginning. Look into the explanatory memorandum by the Muslim Brotherhood on the general strategic goal for the Muslim Brotherhood in America. And then go to YouTube, search on YouTube, Stephen Emerson's documentary called The Jihad in America, The Grand Deception. I'll put the information down there in the link. Make no mistake, This is war. But also, be confident. Donald Trump and you and I, together, we will win this war. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We will preserve this country and we will protect all of our fellow Americans, all of them, Democrats included. The Democrats want to take this nation and they want to fundamentally transform it and they want to turn it into their America. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I formed EPAC, Ensure the Preservation of America and our Constitution. I have people on my team that know exactly what.
I'm gonna try to reach him, you guys. I got his Gmail. I wrote it down. Maybe I can reach him. I got 2 short ones I want to play before we do Billy Bean. About 3 minutes.
You can see the Navy ships that have the high-powered electromagnetic wave transmitters too.
45,000 transmit-receive modules, and this antenna can detect an object the size of a baseball at a range of 2,500 miles. That is why I say this thing can project all that power into a pinpoint beam, totally computer-controlled. The dome is 120-foot diameter. The power source is 6 3.6 megawatt generators for a total of almost 22 megawatts. And this HARP platform has a tow ship to move it around. So that 22 megawatts is not actually designed to go into the engines. That is designed to go into the transmitter unit. Other U.S. Navy ships have powerful microwave transmitters. This is the U.S. Navy ship Howard O. Lorenzen. It looks small, but it's actually 534 feet long. Each phased array, the boxes on the top of the deck, is a phased array transmitter. Synthetic aperture radar, whatever you want to call it, weighs 250 tons. And there's a crew of 88 on board. This is a gigantic ionospheric heater again.
They can easily move these around wherever they need to. In my opinion, this is how they create hurricanes, manipulate the weather, they can do earthquakes, and then it makes me think about Maui, the laser technology, the direct energy weapons. And also don't forget about the Edward Snowden article, where he talks about the electromagnetic waves using the same frequency that manipulate our brain stems. He talks about how they can activate assassins just by putting out a specific frequency that messes with your brainstem. It can cause deviant and aggressive thought patterns.
There's mine to go.
Patriot Princess.
I was just about to play a 3-minute video for your new license law in Florida. Glad you made it on time. And then we're going to do the 35-minute Billy Bean.
The monsters are closing in, and we need you.
A mixed reaction this evening to a new Florida law. It changes to your driver's license or state-issued ID. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Nasha Sherman.
And I'm Jim Barry. It's going to show if the person is a U.S. citizen or not. Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law, and if it goes into effect on January 1st.
CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor is your reporter in Doral. Yvonne, what about the people who already have a driver's license?
Jim and Naja, anybody who holds a driver's license right now or an ID issued by the state of Florida will not be required to get new documentation. And let me highlight that, will not be required to get new documentation right away because the cards will hold valid until they expire. Now, when that happens, that's when things change.
Next January, anyone getting a new Florida driver's license, renewing one, or getting an ID will have his or her immigration status on it.
I don't know if it should be on a driver. I don't think you should have to just say that you are not a citizen.
Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Florida SAVE Act into law this month after the Republican-controlled House and Senate passed it.
It's another way to identify the person.
Daniel Fernandez, the Miami-Dade tax collector, is in charge of the driver's license agencies in Miami-Dade.
What this law going to do is only to put you in your physical car a designation that will say that you are a citizen of the United States of America.
For those who are not citizens, it's supposed to say NC, not a citizen, even if the person is a U.S. resident.
Why is that necessary? This is something that coming from the state because we don't make the law.
The new law is part of an election reform package that seeks to strengthen the verification of citizenship.
The bill is unnecessary.
Senator Chevron Jones is one of the Democratic lawmakers who voted against it.
You're actually in favor of maintaining student and retirement community IDs when it comes to voting. Why?
In 2006, the legislature allowed students to be able to use their voter IDs in order to vote.
They still had to show proof of age and citizenship when voting.
This year, the legislature said that those IDs could no longer be used.
This Venezuelan couple at the driver's license office in Miami are concerned about the future. What if a police officer stops you? They'll see you're not a citizen. That could change the way they treat me. It's concerning.
So this new law already faces 2 federal lawsuits that were filed in the state of Florida. And basically, they both allege that the proof of citizenship requirements, they violate the First and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. But if nothing changes, then things will go on as scheduled on January 2027. We're live in Doral. Yvonne Taylor, CBS News, Miami.
Rewriting your resume till the cows come home?
Billy Bean time, 35.
Napolitano served as Homeland Security Director from 2009 to 2013. And I recall that Janet Napolitano said, in times of national security issues, well, baby, you can go up to any Walmart manager and they can help you, implying that Walmart is part of the U.S. national security system. Now, it's my position that Walmart and the other big box stores, Target, Lowe's, and so on, large stores that are situated around the U.S., Sam's, Costco, also have underneath them underground tunnels. Now, when I was going to college, I worked at Walmart, and I was shown the tunnels and given to understand that, yes, under the Walmarts, and I submit also under big box stores, are underground tunnels that the U.S. would use in times of national security and what I was told was so the U.S. military could move freely across the U.S. to implement martial law. So we'll see if that comes to be. Now, I have a Patriot subscriber who says, what's up with Walmart? Because they're putting up fences and the underground tunnels are under the larger Walmarts. They're putting up fences and they're putting in their parking lot empty containers. I submit that this could be a sign of something going on inside the U.S. from the standpoint of national security. So it's a good time to prep food, medicine, water, cash, and don't forget self-defense. And we have this from another Patriot subscriber. And I wonder if some of these earthquakes in the U.S. are not the result of our POTUS, our president, rescuing individuals from underground tunnels. Could be, I believe. I have another Patriot subscriber. I believe President Trump is a man of deep faith who sincerely loves the USA and the world. And I agree with that. I have another Patriot subscriber talking about Europe and NATO. Europe and NATO without the US, would fall apart. They would have internal conflict and division. And says, I believe the U.S. should reject any influence at all from the EU. I agree with that too. We have U.S. intel. Now, I believe it was this morning that I put out that President Trump said he was going to hug Xi in their meeting in May because Xi had agreed to not supply any more weapons to Iran. Well, just this afternoon, a little while ago, we have China's foreign minister, Guo Jingkan, come out and say that is not true. And that China neither admits nor denies that it is supplying weapons and intel to Iran. But this foreign minister went on to say that China is not going to allow anyone to meddle in their affairs, like President Trump. And for me, I believe President Trump is playing China and Xi. This is going to be fun. And we have this. We have President Trump. Oh, yeah. Scott Bessent came out today in a White House presser and said, we know February 28th, the conflict began with Iran, and shortly after that, President Trump lifted the sanctions on both Iran and China on the sale of their oil for a short time. Now, Scott Bessent says that those lifted sanctions end next Monday and that there will be no extension. That means that Iran and Russia will have to go back to selling their oil on the black market. It appears that President Trump is really squeezing. We have this from Tusi TV. So the U.S. embargo, the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz for ships coming from and going to only Iranian ports in both Iran and also in Oman has taken down the amount of cash for the IRGC. And it's only been, barely a week? And this is also a squeeze play by President Trump to get the IRGC back to the table to talk about ending this.
You know you could be vaping formaldehyde, which is used in taxidermy. Yeesh!
A 73-year-old designer told me, your age isn't the problem. Your pants are. That's why.
So this is going on that even if Iran has some representatives, and we're hearing there may be another talk Friday in Pakistan, but even if those individuals from Iran sign a deal, as soon as they get back to Iran, it's highly likely they will be assassinated by other people inside Iran. And we have this, that last night, April 14, we had some people in Iran being assassinated. It's believed by either Mossad or CIA or armed Iranian citizens. These assassinations included the leader of the IRGC Besiege, and it's the Besiege arm that was in charge of machine gunning down Iranian citizens who were unarmed in the streets beginning in January. I've heard different numbers. Now, I do have good sources for a very high number that the IRGC has gunned down in their streets unarmed Iranian citizens of 60 to 80,000 since January. So IRGC, shut up.
Oh.
And we have this. Yeah. So it's believed the leader of the IRGC Besiege was assassinated last night, and other IRGC leaders. It's now being confirmed. I believe I reported on that yesterday. Information from Enforcer. And this information is from 2CTV, confirming last night there were 2 car bombs in Tehran. And also the Besiege leader who was assassinated was stabbed to death. I bet there are a lot of Iranian citizens who had their loved ones shot down in cold blood in the streets of Tehran, who would be fully capable of stabbing to death the leader who ordered that. So that's going on. And it's coming out that the IRGC is afraid of the Iranian people. Now, multiple sources state that 80% of the 90 million population are absolutely against the current Islamic Republic government. So yeah, no wonder. Iran fears their people, and we know the same is true inside China. And we have this. Now, this is from 2CTV, that today, the Mayar Tusi, who is the founder of 2CTV, is also Iranian. So he has good contacts inside Iran and also Israel. So he had some pictures of the IRGC taking buses and trucks and so forth and completely lining them up to cover the airport in Western Tehran. And that was to prevent the U.S. Ground invasion. Hello, ding dong, IRGC. Are you not familiar with helicopters? And hey, You've got water areas on both sides of Iran, the Caspian Sea and the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf. Hello. Do you think that the U.S. has to fly planes in and land them to have a ground invasion? Yeah. And we have Reza Pavlati, who it's believed the U.S. is supporting to head up the transition government in Iran. This week, he's been in Europe meeting European leaders. And
tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break. After a long day of seeing, things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine.
He states truly, it's not believed by anyone in the U.S. nor in other nations that the Iranian people will accept a repackaged version of the current Islamic Republic government. No. And I believe many of these people are psychopaths, totally out of touch with the real world. And what you have to do with individuals like that is neutralize them. We have this also, that this is sweet. Now we know that Pakistan has been mediating between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan. And yet, Pakistan is complicit with China in shipping Chinese weapons and chemicals for jet missile fuel and so on right across Pakistan. And yet, Pakistan is mediating the talks. I tell you, it's really sweet. And now today, we had Pakistan sending 15,000 troops to Saudi Arabia because Pakistan has a defense agreement with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia said, send those troops, or you can pay us back the $6.5 billion we loaned you. So Pakistan sent their troops to Saudi Arabia. And yet today in Iran, I believe in Iran was the Pakistan general in charge of the Pakistan army coming into Iran to talk about the next round of talks. And yet in Saudi Arabia, simultaneously, we had another Pakistan leader talking to Saudi Arabia. So there's a whole lot going on. And we have CENTCOM putting out a public statement that the U.S. military is currently drilling their troops in the Middle East, practice for a ground invasion. So that's going on. And we have this. Yeah, today, or late last night, Israel was also hitting Hezbollah, a proxy for Iran, inside Lebanon. And in the last 24 hours, Israel has hit 200 Hezbollah targets. So that's going on. And we have this. We have, the first time, now Tusi TV is also putting this out, that it's the first time China has publicly admitted that they were sending weapons to Iran. And then, as I began this episode, putting out that just this afternoon, then China's foreign minister said, no, we're not. We neither admit nor deny that we're sending weapons and chemicals and other stuff to Iran. and that Pakistan is fully complicit with us. No, the Chinese foreign minister didn't include Iran. I am doing that. And this President Trump's public statement now, he's going to hug Xi because China is not sending any more weapons to Iran. Yeah. I love the way that President Trump engages in world diplomacy. And we have this. We had Israel. They have an intel group called Shin Bet that gave intel to the IDF, the Israeli military, who then arrested 2 terrorists inside Israel. So that's going on. And we have this. So this is coming out, a report that the U.S. is willing to talk to Iran about extending the ceasefire. They're willing to talk about it. Now, Pakistan today had the head of their army in Tehran, the capital of Iran, to talk about upcoming talks. And they also had their prime minister in Saudi Arabia, talking about Pakistan bringing 15,000 Pakistan troops into Saudi Arabia to defend Saudi Arabia against Iran. See what I mean? Yeah. Pakistan is really in a hot mess up to their eyeballs. And they're also included in the group recently. President Trump said he's going to put an additional 50% tariff on any nation supplying weapons or intel to Iran. And that includes Russia, China, and Pakistan. And now we have this. We have from Israeli News Live that there have been secret meetings between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And that Iran has been negotiating with Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia is headed up by Mohammed bin Salman, who is very close to the U.S., and Pakistan is sending 15,000 troops to Saudi Arabia to defend Saudi Arabia against Iran. Yet Iran, from a report, is having secret meetings with Saudi Arabia. Okay, and now we have this from U.S. Intel. Yeah, there's been a big fire today in Victoria, Australia, at Viva Energy. And this is one of 2 operating oil refineries inside Australia. And it's highly likely this could have been sabotage. So that's going on. And we have reports now from Physical 40s, a group that actually prices futures for oil delivery, predicting that we will soon see a price per barrel of oil of $135 to $150, while we're seeing a paper or current barrel price listed by West Texas and Brent at about $100 per barrel. So I submit this.
Tired of sifting through jobs that don't feel like the right fit? Introducing Indeed Career Scout. Find the job that's right for you.
This is what would happen to your body if you ate mood sleep gummies every day. Day 1, you take your first gummy.
So we're seeing a hit on Australia to take out one of their refineries. We've also seen hits inside of Russia taking down their oil refineries. I believe something's going on. And now we have this from Enforcer. This came out today that, President Trump has made the statement, and he welcomes it, that China is not going to send any more weapons to Iran. But China's foreign minister came out this afternoon and denied that. But in the afternoon, we see that now a report came out that this afternoon that China was providing Iran with satellite visual images of U.S. military and bases and so on. Another report says actually that Iran had bought a satellite from China that provides this intel. So that would mean that China is not specifically providing intel to Iran. Iran has simply purchased the satellite from China. But China is sending weapons, and China is sending chemicals to make missile fuel right across Pakistan. So yeah, it is a hot mess, and Pakistan stands right in the center, up to their eyeballs. Yeah, and so China sold the spy satellite to Iran that was launched in 2024. And I believe they bought it for something like $136 million. Yeah, but let's recall, the U.S. military has satellites in the sky that are satellite killers. And I say, go for it, President Trump. Yeah, so that's going on. And we have this. We have, Iran purchased the spy satellite from China, $36 million, not $130. $36 million doesn't sound all that much for a satellite. And we have the U.S. military doing practice drills, prepping for a ground invasion. And more troops, U.S. military, more troops and equipment every day are coming into the Middle East. And we have the U.S. military broadcasting to ships in the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman.
11 minutes.
And they're saying that the U.S. military is essentially targeting ships going to and from Iranian ports, both in Iran and also in Oman. And that if the U.S. military wants a ship to stop or turn around, and the ship does not comply, the U.S. military is broadcasting this message to ships, then the U.S. military will use force. So that's going on. And we have this from Promethean Uptake. Tom Friedman, I think he's a commie dem. I believe he was on TV giving an interview somewhere. And to see Iran go down with their Islamic Republic would be good for the people of Iran. But the problem is we don't see Bibi Netanyahu and President Trump scoring politically by a U.S. win. Tom Friedman is, as I said, a commie dem. So he's saying even if the U.S. and Israel win a military situation in Iran and also are successful in taking down the Islamic Republic, which Tom Friedman said would be good for the Iranian people. But, President Trump and Netanyahu shouldn't be allowed to score politically by a U.S. win. Tom Friedman, shut up. And we have this. So we recently saw an election in Hungary where Viktor Orban lost. He'd been in power for 16 hours. He was close to President Trump, the U.S., and Russia. So he's out. So now NATO and the EU have their pick in. So that's going on. Yeah. And now NATO, with Orban out of the way, the EU wants to make a new rule that I'm assuming would apply to both NATO and the EU. They're kind of complicit, that no single country can veto any decision made in Brussels. It's called tightening up. It's called, you want to see a dictator? Well, we're going to show you one. Because from now on, no nation in Europe can go against the small group at the top. Any decisions they make apply carte blanche across the entire European Union. So so NATO and the EU is saying to the people of the, I think it's 32 nations now that make up the EU, shut up. We'll tell you what decisions we make. And of course, it's led by Ursula von der Leyen. And she doesn't look like a dictator, but her words clearly identify her as that. Yeah, and we have from Scott Bessett, I found this very interesting. Now, we know that the UK was part of the NATO turncoats against the U.S. So the UK, at the beginning of this conflict, the U.S. conflict against...
Stop paying those greedy telecom giants outrageous monthly bills. The era of being ripped off by monopolies officially ends.
Iran, February 28th, said, oh, no, Keir Starmer, you can't use U.S. bases in the UK, Fairford, located near London, and also a strategic U.S. military base located on an island close in the Middle East. Diego Garcia, no, you can't use those U.S. military bases to launch against Iran. Well, in London also, as I've put forth before, it's conspiracy, but I believe it's true. There's a small part of London called the City of London, where the deep state has their number one financial control over the world. And even the Queen and King must get permission to go into and talk to anyone inside this small area of London. It's the deep state financial control. And they also put out Lloyd's of London insurance. And one of the things Lloyd's of London insures are ships, civilian ships, merchant ships. And so now the U.S. is entering into competition with Lloyd's of London. And this is according to the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessett, that the U.S. is putting together a fund, and it's to insure merchant ships. And he freely admits the U.S. will make money off of it. So that's another move by President Trump to take down the deep state. You no longer control merchant shipping by either, adding or taking away insurance for merchant ships. So shut up deep state city of London. We have this from Stephen Gardner. Yeah, President Trump is diminishing the supply of oil for sale to Iran and China. And then China is to stop giving weapons to Iran. We have multiple sources for that story this morning. And there's choke point after choke point for China. Yes, according to President Trump's brilliant plan, first taking down Venezuela and now Iran to choke China of its supply of oil. And we have this deep dive, Colonel Davis. He interviewed Jim Jatros. He's a former U.S. diplomat, talking about that the U.S. builds with troops while Iran builds up militias, untrained shooters. And there's a big difference. Yeah, big difference between militias and the U.S. professional trained military who are now also combat hardened. So that's going on. And we have this, Professor Marandi. He's a professor at a university in Tehran. He's Iranian. He also attended the talks, recent talks between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan, Professor Marandi. And he says that Iran has a plan and they're going to block ships in the Red Sea and also the Gulf of Oman. Well, I don't know what Iran is going to use because the U.S. military has already destroyed their navy. And I don't believe the Houthis in Yemen are going to cooperate and block the Red Sea because Iran is out of money to pay them. So, yeah, that's going on. And we have this. Yeah, this is very interesting. So in Iran, they have posters up. They have a man's hand clutching like a blue cloth to symbolize that Iran is actually in control of the Strait of Hormuz. But it's coming out that the man's hand has also a red stone ring on it that is very similar to the hand of a deceased Iranian General Soleimani, who passed away during President Trump's first term because Soleimani was bringing killing actions against U.S. military. I believe in Iraq, but it could have been other places. So Iran is putting up these posters symbolizing the hand of Soleimani. Yes, we're squeezing the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran, shut up. So that concludes my update. And I believe with President Trump's move against China from this morning, yes, I'm going to hug Xi when I see him in May because China is going to stop supplying weapons to Iran. And then the Chinese foreign minister coming out this afternoon, no, China neither admits nor denies that China is supplying weapons to Iran. But nothing, we're not admitting that and we're not denying it either. So I got this to say to the foreign minister of China, shut up. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you. And I'll see you soon.
Okay, that was a big one there. 35 minutes. Yep, we play her for a long time. We've been playing her. Okay, Kim. Yeah. We'll go 4. I'm gonna go to 12 to 3. And back at 5. So I'm back at 5. Time for some short ones here. Wire Channel.
2026, President 15, information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Another school shooting reported in Turkey. Attempted child abduction halted in Nebraska. Major fire reported at Australian refinery. Beginning with international events, in Turkey, following yesterday's mass shooting in a school, another school shooting was reported in the town of Kahramanmaraş. One gunman conducted a small arms attack at Aser Çağlayan Middle School this morning, which resulted in an estimated 4 fatalities and 20 others wounded. In Australia this evening, a major fire was reported at the Viva Energy refinery in Geelong, Victoria. Shelter-in-place orders have been issued for a large portion of the city due to the smoke from the fire, and the facility burned throughout most of the day. Analysts comment. The cause of the blaze has not yet been disclosed. However, this is one of 2 refineries in Australia which is now out of commission at a time when the fuel crisis is becoming a much more substantial problem. On the home front, in Nebraska, an attempted child abduction was reported yesterday afternoon in Omaha. Local authorities responded to reports of a woman with a large kitchen knife at the Walmart on 72nd Street who had taken hostage a 3-year-old child and his guardian inside the store. Upon arriving on scene, the suspect had maneuvered with the child to the parking lot and was engaged by police, halting the attack. The suspect was killed at the scene and the child was wounded by the attacker during the incident but is expected to make a full recovery. Analysts comment. The assailant has been identified as Noemi Guzman, who has a long history of similar attacks. In 2024, Guzman stabbed her own father and attempted to set him on fire before departing the scene and breaking into a church armed with a large kitchen knife. During that incident, the priest had to barricade himself in the rectory while Guzman attempted to kill him. Guzman was released without bail immediately after that initial incident by Judge Russell Dare, before eventually being found not guilty by reason of insanity and subsequently released. Analyst comments for this wire. In the Strait of Hormuz, the overall situation is confusing at best, which is largely due to the metrics and vocabulary choices used to describe what is going on. As time has gone on, this has become a major problem for understanding what is happening with global trade. For instance, the status of whether or not the strait is open is now a grand debate. On the one hand, the White House states that the U.S. is working to open the strait, but on the other hand, they are turning ships around who try to transit the waterway. At lower levels of governance, many American officials are stating that a few dozen ships have transited the strait since the Iranians created the new Larak Islands toll booth arrangement. However, this phrasing is misleading, even though it's technically true. On any given day, local traffic does transit the strait, as it always has. Small fishing boats, dhows moving cargo from one Iranian port to another, or other smaller ships carrying cargo within the Middle East have always been allowed by the Iranians, even before the ceasefire came to effect. This is how numbers get inflated or deflated regarding this conflict. Nobody is using the same terminology, and many decision makers are talking past each other without using the same metrics. Now that the U.S. Navy is enforcing their own blockade, another metric arrives for everyone to track, namely how many non-Iranian vessels are transiting the region and whether or not they have cargo on board. Some empty vessels have been allowed in by the Americans, other empty vessels have been halted by either the Americans or Iranians, and some have been approved by the Iranians only to get turned around by the Americans. As if this wasn't complicated and confusing enough, another factor comes into play. A huge number of the large cargo and tanker ships that have crossed the strait since the war began are actually sanctioned vessels that are part of the global dark fleet of vessels conducting shady activity around the world. Counting these vessels as transiting the strait and counting this as evidence of cargo shipments returning to normal is misleading because it's akin to a drug dealer obeying traffic laws and using that as an example of success. Of course, the ships operating under the table are going to assume more risk and pay the Iranian toll because they're already riding dirty and they aren't insured by companies in the Western world, nor are they usually bound for Western ports. Other than the insurance complications, some ships are spoofing their location or otherwise pretending to be other ships, so it's a hard situation to monitor, and each and every hull is having to be scrutinized on a case-by-case basis. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, April 15th, 2026.
Okay, another important video. I think this one's 5. This just came out 2 hours ago.
The architecture that has held the Western world together for 80 years shows cracks this deep. Prophecy watchers pay attention, not because they're looking for political ammunition, but because the Bible describes an end times world where the alliance structures of the present era have been replaced by a fundamentally different configuration of power. And the fracture between America and Europe, the first public rupture of the Western alliance over energy security, moves the geopolitical picture closer to the prophetic picture than any previous diplomatic crisis. Now here's what the Bible describes about the alignment of nations in the last days. Because the prophetic picture is not a single superpower protecting a global system. It is a fractured, multipolar world where regional powers compete, alliances shift, and the vacuum left by the withdrawal of the dominant power is filled by a new system. Ezekiel 38 describes a coalition: Gog, Magog, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer, Togarma, that moves against Israel. The coalition is regional, not global. It consists of nations from the north, the east, and the south of Israel. And notably, critically, it does not include any nation that scholars associate with Western Europe or North America. But here's what makes that absence so significant. Because the most powerful military alliance in the history of the world is the NATO alliance, led by the United States. And Ezekiel's coalition does not include it. The nations that dominate the present-day security architecture, the ones Trump just told to fend for themselves, are absent from the end times military picture. And here's the question that absence raises. Because for the Western powers to be absent from the Ezekiel 38 scenario, something must have happened to remove them from the equation. Whether that something is military decline, economic collapse, internal division, or simply the kind of alliance fracture that Trump's statement represents, the Western powers must, at some point, become irrelevant to the Middle Eastern military picture. And the go-get-your-own-oil statement is the first time in the modern era that an American president has publicly signaled that America's role in that picture may be ending. And here's what makes the current war so directly relevant to the prophetic picture. Because the nation being dismantled by Operation Epic Fury is the nation Ezekiel names first in the coalition. Ezekiel 38:5. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Persia, modern Iran, its military capability reduced by 90%, its navy destroyed, its ammunition depots burning. And yet, Ezekiel places it in a future coalition that invades Israel, which means that between now and the Ezekiel 38 invasion, Iran must recover enough to participate, or it must be integrated into a larger coalition that compensates for its weakness with the strength of its allies. But here's what makes the alliance dynamics so significant. But the question millions of people are asking goes
Here we got more of those short clips here. What are we doing? Oh. Okay, what do we got? This is what I was telling you earlier, okay? I don't know how long this is. This is what, yeah, it's playing. I guess that's not good. I thought that was gonna be okay, but they just do a tape, so I guess we won't play those. We have to see the tape and everything. So sorry about that one. Okay, I got Trish videos coming up here. Get them here. Oh wait, let's do this one. 3.5.
A box office titan says,
Ah.
what he's seen inside Hollywood can't stay buried. This isn't gossip. It's not scandal. It's evil. Pure evil. Washington says the industry is crawling with predators and psychopaths, hiding behind premieres and philanthropy. Power brokers, untouchables, smiling monsters in designer suits. And now there's proof. A tape. Footage so vile that until now it never left private rooms. It was whispered about. Traded like contraband among the elites. People who thought they were above the laws of the land and God's laws. But it slipped. Unsealed during Blake Lively's brutal court discovery. Sitting on her personal laptop. A file named Silk Noose. Locked hidden until it wasn't. What's on that video? Ellen DeGeneres. Cannibalism on camera. But it gets even worse. Because DeGeneres and her Hollywood pals were summoning Lucifer himself. And they succeeded. And in Hollywood, in locked screening rooms high in the hills, in private group chats that vanish after 24 hours, in late night gatherings where the curtains stay drawn, there is excitement. Not fear, excitement. Veteran insiders are drawing comparisons to Aleister Crowley's ceremonies from the early 20th century, calling this the first verifiable high-definition record in modern times. For some, it's a deranged fascination. For others, it's something that keeps them awake at night. As for Denzel Washington, he says when the footage goes public, Hollywood doesn't just face scandal, it faces extinction. When the public finally grasps who these people truly serve, not some vague metaphor, not symbolic rebellion or edgy art, but something literal, ancient, and utterly opposed to everything decent, it will change everything. Studios will fall, careers vaporize, empires collapse overnight. We're the investigation team they couldn't kill. The same researchers who first exposed Pizzagate before the media gaslit the nation. The ones who decoded the Podesta emails while the world laughed. The ones who sat across from Justin Bieber when he was shaking, trying to warn anybody who would listen. They banned us from every platform. They raided our homes. They told you we were crazy. Now we're back with the one story that ties every thread together. We have 4K footage showing Ellen DeGeneres and other household names summoning the devil. And not just summoning, engaging in vile acts that will bring the entertainment industry to its knees. This is not a true crime podcast. This is the evidence drop the elite have nightmares about. Subscribe right now. Today, you'll see the evidence with your own eyes. To watch this video in full, please subscribe to me on X. Visit x.com/TPVSean and click on the subscribe button. For only
So that was an update on whatever her name is.
Paperwork is right there in the glove box. Deputy Ruth thinks he holds absolute control over a helpless nobody in a rusted truck. He has absolutely no idea. He just walked straight into a massive trap set by a ghost investigator. What happens next is a catastrophic nightmare. He's about to make a fatal mistake that instantly destroys his badge and ends his entire career.
Here's my license and registration, officer. It's all up to date.
Yeah, I asked for the plastic, not a story. Hand it over right now before I lose my patience.
You look a little nervous sitting there. Got any weapons, drugs, or open containers rolling around in the back of this junker? Don't lie to me.
No, son, just my morning coffee and some old tools in the back. Yeah, we'll see about that. Go ahead and step out of the vehicle for me right now.
Listen to me. I'm not stepping out of my truck. I haven't committed a crime today, and absolutely everything you need for this stop is right there in your hand.
Sir, I'm giving you a lawful order. Go ahead and step out of the vehicle for me. Refusing a direct order now? That's exactly what guilty guys do when they're hiding something.
Flat out lying, you know it. I'd make sure you keep that body camera running.
Are you threatening a sworn officer? Out here, I am the law.
I'm not threatening anybody, son. I'm just giving you some friendly advice to save your own tape. You're going to want a clear record of this.
You don't advise me anything out here. I can call a K9 unit right now and lock you up. Go ahead and call. I'm not in a rush today. Take your time.
You think you're real smart, don't you, old man? Let's see exactly how smart you are when I'm tearing up your truck bed looking for your stash.
I'm telling you, you don't have any cause, son. Just have a really bad temper, a bruised ego, and a badge you don't quite know how to wear yet. Hey, watch your mouth, okay? Guys like you always think you can hide your garbage from us.
You're about to make a massive mistake that you can't walk back from.
Dispatch, run a 2729 on a John Carter and go ahead and start a backup unit to my location. I've got a non-compliant driver.
I told you to take your time and think this through, but you just can't help yourself, can you?
Don't touch that handle, son. That is your final warning.
You don't give me warnings out here. I'm completely done playing your little roadside lawyer game. We're doing this my way now, whether you like it or not.
Listen, you're fabricating probable cause on a hot mic, son. That's a Title 18 civil rights violation, and it is definitely going to cost you your badge. Who's going to believe a guy in a rusted-out truck over a sworn deputy? The system believes the camera, son, and it's recording every single word.
Let it record. I don't care. I'm opening the bed of this truck right now to see exactly what kind of illegal garbage you're smuggling.
Well, the old saying, son, what you break, you buy. On a deputy's salary, you definitely can't afford the price tag on this one. You're an absolute joke. Let's see what kind of garbage you've actually got hidden back here.
You force that latch open, the cost is entirely yours to pay.
I told you to just shut up. I'm taking this entire truck apart piece by piece, and I won't stop until I find something to lock you up for.
There, the latch is open. Now let's see what you're hiding.
Just cross the line you can't uncross, son. I hope it was worth it.
Cross the line? You're the one who's going in handcuffs right now. Turn around, put your hands behind your back where I can see them, old man. I highly doubt that, son. Why don't you just listen to your radio for a second?
Priority traffic. Subject is an internal affairs investigator, badge 804. Stand down immediately.
Internal. Wait, sir, that can't be right. I thought, I didn't know who you were.
Sir, please. I was already looking into you, son. Now I don't have to. Your license and registration.
Wow, what do you guys think of that one? He gonna have a big lawsuit, right? That cop was wrong there. That was off News Force. I got another one off News Force. One minute.
U.S. Air Force general missing since February 27th is actually sitting in a military stockage for allegedly planning to defect to North Korea, of all places, with an SD card chock full of classified intelligence, Real Raw News has learned. Retired Air Force Major General William Neil McCasland, 68, vanished inexplicably from Albuquerque, New Mexico, leaving behind his glasses and cellular phone but apparently taking his wallet, boots, and a .38 revolver. His disappearance triggered a police investigation, which remains active, per the Albuquerque PD. His wife, when interviewed by detectives, reportedly compared her husband to the fictional character Lieutenant Colonel Markinson from the film A Few Good Men, telling police, "If my husband doesn't want to be found, he won't be found." A neighbor of McCaslin told police officers that McCaslin had grown disillusioned with America and may have simply hiked to the desert and put his pistol in his mouth. As always happens when a prominent person disappears mysteriously, the internet is saturated in conspiracy theories, and McCaslin's case is no exception. Did he shoot himself? Was he abducted by extraterrestrials or foreign agents? Did the US government move him under the mountain for national security reasons? Fueling fantastic speculation is the fact that McCaslin, prior to retiring, was the commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and was associated with advanced space research. And further fanning flames of conjecture is the fact that McCaslin is one of 10 nuclear or space researchers to have bafflingly evanesced since 2013. Occam's razor suggests the simplest explanation is usually right. A source at Air Force Special Operations Command, AFSOC, told RRN McCaslin wasn't abducted by aliens, suicidal, or sent to a secret base. The source, whose claims we haven't verified, said AFSOC operators arrested McCaslin near his home on February 27, based on solid evidence he planned to give U.S. secrets to North Korea for asylum. The source, citing security, gave only basic details about the arrest. He lost his mind or something, he got Trump derangement syndrome, the source said of McCaslin, and had reached out to several foreign intelligence agencies. Russia's FSB, the Ukrainian Fifth Floor, China's Ministry of State Security. He wanted amnesty and a promise of non-extradition. He was willing to give them some very secret shit. China and Russia said fuck no, and then McCaslin sent encrypted messages to North Korea's Ministry of State Security, and, yeah, they wanted to see him. Weirdly, Vladimir Putin called Trump to tell him a traitor was trying to sell sensitive info for citizenship. AFSOC, he added, determined McCaslin was the culprit, and an investigation revealed he had bought a one-way ticket from New Mexico to Beijing and, from there, a tourist flight to Pyongyang via Air Koryo. Somehow, he had forged his passport to include a U.S. State Department special travel permit, needed to enter North Korea. At 5 a.m. on February 28, AFSOC operators stopped McCaslin as he left his garage with a small backpack. They found a doctored passport and a micro SD card in his wallet. He was arrested and taken to a military processing center. The SD card reportedly contained sensitive satellite schematics and codes used by the Space Force's 18th Space Defense Squadron. "This guy will fry," our source said. "These so-called patriots turning out to be traitors are showing up everywhere. We have no corporate advertisers, nor billionaire philanthropists looking to support efforts to expose the deep state's evil agenda. Every donation, irrespective of the amount, is appreciated and helps ensure our survival in these perilous times. We need to pull $3,100 to cover April expenses, and we appreciate any help that comes our way."
Okay, off of Real Wild News, and that came from News 4, so we had two good ones from News. I'm going to play Cass. He has something out of New York. We haven't played one of him in a while.
Group of people who have gotten in illegally. We're talking about squatters.
Did you hear that? America's largest sanctuary city has squatters illegally occupying public housing, which is promised for the needy. And while our influencer communist mayor runs around town proclaiming he's here to save the city, people who live here, especially in government-run housing, wonder when exactly that's going to start happening. And so do the homeless who qualify for these places but can't have one because they've been stolen by criminals.
This is what's left behind after housing workers say a woman squatted inside an empty city-run NYCHA apartment. Trash, debris, and filthy living conditions.
It's horrendous.
I'm going to work to speak to every single New Yorker to ensure they know a city they can afford is on the ballot.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
The Douglas House's tenant was subletting her $144 unit for $1,500 per month.
The truth of the matter is the shortage in housing is bad.
People squat, people trap.
It also happened inside an empty unit at Surfside Gardens in Brooklyn. The NYPD arrested 2 men and say they recovered a pistol from inside the apartment. And again at Castle Hill houses in the Bronx. Officers say they found a gang member.
This guy hasn't stopped pushing the agenda that was exactly what we had expected. He's lived up to all of his radical left-wing promises as far as he's talking about driving out the middle class with his property taxes, his wealth taxes, any kind of tax you could think of. If you're walking and talking and breathing, you're going to get taxed too.
So if you want to see how well communism works, look at this. We've got hundreds of squatters living in government-run housing, and they get away with it because nobody checks on these places. And what you won't hear anywhere else is that the communism New York City already has, it's right here, and it's failing. And while our new mayor came into office promising socialism we've never seen before, he's been running from the disaster collapsing this place ever since he got into office. Because while the city of New York has over 6,000 vacant apartments it's supposed to move the needy into, the plight of the people living in these buildings and those who can't get in has been completely ignored at Mom Donnie's landlord skewering rental ripoff hearings. And that's because if you've got people living in government-run housing in New York right now, and it's a terrible situation, that's a total indictment of the new system we're all supposed to bow down to. Now, look, if you're watching this and saying that this is a gigantic I told you so moment, congratulations. But you need to understand the average New Yorker who can't afford rent, can't afford groceries, and has been taught that capitalism stinks. This person's primed to fall in love with a guy who says socialism will save us all with other people's money. And the reason it's going to work so well is because we've got so many millionaires and billionaires that we can just hammer them and get them to pay for all the stuff the voters just voted for. Totally ignoring the fact that the unaffordability we experience here is due to the socialism we've already got. And here comes more of it. And that brings us to the real reason why the city's collapsing public housing system is such a disaster for the new mayor and his agenda to bring more buildings underneath that umbrella, which is what he wants to do. He wants to seize private property. But what all of this proves is that New Yorkers, they can vote for other people's money all they want. We've already run out of it.
It takes the housing authority an average of 370 days to complete repairs. It's likely the Earth will complete a trip around the sun before an issue is fixed.
Right, so the Earth can revolve around the sun completely before one of these places gets made livable. Yet the slumlords the mayor's always talking about, well, it only takes them 48 hours to turn around an apartment and get it ready for a tenant, which is what happens when you're allowed to charge market rate for something. You can afford market rate labor, and you're not going to run out of it, which means the invisible hands of Adam Smith renovate these apartments quickly and put people in them and prevent homelessness. Meanwhile, our communist apartments, who ban people like him and his wacky right-wing ideas, well, they're full of squatters and criminals who everybody else gets to pay for the privilege of housing for free. Now, that's certainly not a defense of $5,000 a month rents, but ask yourself, why do we have $5,000 a month rents? It's because capitalism has been curtailed in this city. We can't build new buildings, because that would create new millionaire landlords. So we're stuck with the buildings we have. And while rents in some places will make your eyes pop out of your head, they're so high, other places have so much regulation on them, they can't even make a profit.
We are talking about a lack of heat, a lack of hot water, and instead leaks, rats, and when a really bad landlord, like this guy, refuses to fix it, the city's gonna step in, make the repairs, and send them the bill. If that doesn't work, the city's taking over the building.
So the landlord of the building behind the mayor is so awful and so terrible that they don't deserve to be a landlord anymore. And you know what? The city is going to come in and take that property away from them. But then the city's going to have to fix it. And will they be able to do that?
Do you support Israel and the Jewish people? Now, more than ever, Israel needs committed friends around the world to voice.
CBS 2 found the average repair times are on the rise. 370 days or higher each of the last 5 months, compared to 345 in March of 2023.
Yeah, I don't think the city's going to do a great job renovating that apartment. And while they figure out what to do with it, it's going to fill up with squatters.
It determined a Douglas House's tenant was subletting her $144 unit for $1,500 per month.
The truth of the matter is the shortage in housing is bad.
People squat, people trap plenty of times.
But that's okay, because even though squatters are bad news, and even though they make the city look terrible, the real enemy here is somebody that owns a piece of property privately.
Donnie's office says she'll be an advocate for renters to make sure they have proper living conditions, but she's raising a lot of eyebrows for controversial comments she's made in the past about private properties.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity.
Right. So the best way to protect people from poverty and homelessness is to have us all live in a big commune, but we're already trying that. And it leads to more poverty and it leads to more homelessness. It's not working. It's failing right in front of us. And we want to expand it to get rid of the millionaires. This reveals two things. First of all, it reveals that communism is always doomed to failure because the people who believe in it believe that there shouldn't be wealth of any kind, yet you've got to tax the wealth and hammer it in order to pay for all the free stuff. And the second thing it reveals is that the squatters taking over these places, well, they're not actually doing anything wrong because of the collective purpose housing is supposed to serve.
A new report finds that NYCHA has over 6,000 vacant apartments. The city's Department of Investigation Acting Commissioner Christopher Ryan says many of these apartments they suspect have had trespassing and other illegal activity that's gone unnoticed.
I mean, the collective losses here are ridiculous. We've got 6,000 empty apartments that nobody will inspect because nobody can be paid to inspect them because we've run out of everybody else's money collectively. What a disaster. And you know something? If there were a private landlord in New York that had 6,000 vacant apartments, they would be attacked, maligned, and threatened by the city's radical leaders who don't think they should exist at all. Yet the city conveniently gets a free pass. They're trying their best. And I don't think they care if there's squatters in these places.
This is what's left behind after housing workers say a woman squatted inside an empty city-run NYCHA apartment. Trash, debris, and filthy living conditions. It happened inside Mitchell houses in the Bronx.
It's horrendous.
It also happened inside an empty unit at Surfside Gardens in Brooklyn. The NYPD arrested 2 men and say they recovered a pistol from inside the apartment. And again at Castle Hill houses in the Bronx. Officers say they found a gang member.
Wow. So, well, the people of this city, the law-abiding, vote for a communist to come in here and fix everything. The communism we have is falling apart in every single way possible. This is a total disaster. Yet the city gets a free pass. And not only is having a gang member or other criminals taking over various apartments, not paying for them, disenfranchising those who've waited in line a big problem, this is all enabled by our left field progressive system of justice. And now that justice system has found its way into a housing system that's supposed to help the needy, which is propped up by everybody else's money, which means the law-abiding are stuck paying for something. And now, because we've got gang members living in some of these apartments, you've got families that can't live in them and have to live on the streets and deal with an affordability crisis that is just getting worse.
Just a mess.
The city's Department of Investigation found more than 500 empty apartments were taken over by squatters over the past 3 years. Apartments meant for hardworking families.
That's just what they know about.
It resulted in 81 arrests.
I wasn't surprised by the number of apartments that were identified in that report as having squatters in them.
Where are we walking to now, Dan?
We're going to walk to this building right across the way.
Daniel Green has seen every one of them.
Why is no one surprised? Why are our elected representatives not surprised? guys? What are they doing to fix this? What are they doing to get families into these places and get the squatters out? I haven't seen any laws get passed that are going to put these criminals in jail and lock them up and let them live in a jail, squat there. But this is what happens when you live in a sanctuary city that has deleted the idea of bail for violent criminals and is in the process right now of seeking to close down our jails and empty them out so there are less people squatting in jail cells, no longer a threat to society, you see. And here's another question. How many criminals do you think living in city-run housing right now for free have prior infractions on their record? I bet you a whole bunch of them do. I bet you these aren't people who got up one day and were going to put on a suit and go work at the office at Goldman Sachs and said, you know what, I'm not going to put on my suit today and go to the office. Instead, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to go join a gang and I'm going to live in a free apartment. And just like every single item stolen from a CVS jacks up the cost on the remaining items for the people who come in to legally pay for them, every single apartment, whether it's stolen from a private landlord or from the city itself, just jacks up the cost of housing on everybody else. You see, lawlessness disenfranchises the law-abiding all throughout our city and leads to unaffordability. That's our unaffordability problem.
It is very frustrating because of the time it takes us to do the work and the expense of it. To see that undone is very frustrating. Broken windows and so on and so forth.
He said the squatters got in apartments like this.
This looks like it needs a bit of work. It does. Yes, it does.
Ones that were recently vacated and under renovation for things like lead paint at the time.
It's definitely a major concern for us to prevent any sort of unauthorized occupancy or trespass.
Look, I don't blame this guy who's a NYCHA property manager for the problems with this system. He's working with a broken system. It's not his fault these places take a year to renovate because there's no money to pay people to come in and do the work. It's not his fault the city can't get its act together to fund the renovation of 6,000 vacant apartments. And the reason they can't get their act together is because they've run out of the money to do it. And they don't have unlimited money. Therefore, it's not happening. And if these apartments are sitting empty for years without getting repaired, they become targets for squatters and scammers who should be in jail and aren't for some reason. And while the property manager says that the city needs to do more to make sure that people don't squat in these apartments, if there's no money to renovate the apartments, there's not going to be money to pay security guards to patrol them either.
Into our units.
For added safety, the city report called for more inspections, stating NYCHA does not proactively inspect its vacant apartments.
The investigation also found housing authority workers used the same lock and the same key to open all vacant units in a building. It makes it easier for maintenance workers, but it can also make it easier for squatters to gain access.
Right. Now, okay, I'm a real estate agent. This is common. Private apartments do this all the time, but the problem is private apartments, they're run under capitalism. These government apartments, they're run under socialism. In the private apartment building, where you've got a master key that lets you into an apartment, that apartment's only vacant for 1 or 2 days before it's rented and renovated and somebody else moves in. There is so much foot traffic in those apartments, it would be impossible for squatters to go unnoticed or get any sleep. But in the communist government-run apartments, nobody goes inside ever. These places sit vacant for years. People have a key. They can just go in and do whatever they want. The system has broken down. It doesn't work with the realities of getting something rented. These two systems are totally incompatible. And even though private apartments in this city have obnoxious rents, the rents are not obnoxious because the landlords are greedy. They're obnoxious because that's what people are willing to pay. There's no supply of apartments. If you hate greedy landlords and you hate the fact that rents are through the roof, let's use capitalism to hammer those landlords. You got a guy charging $5,000 a month over here. Let's build another building over here. Better yet, let's build 10 of them. Let's build hundreds of them. Let's tank rents by allowing new people to come into the rental market and provide things people want to pay for. Let's do that. Oh, but we can't. If we do that, somebody might make money renting something to somebody else that doesn't have a building of their own. And this isn't collective at all. That's
The DOI report suggested NYCHA do better inspections and also do different locks. Are you going to take those recommendations into effect?
Yeah, we've accepted the recommendations this month. We've already started to do some monthly inspections.
And says they have a new method for locking units under renovation, one they don't want criminals to know about. They've partnered with the NYPD and their law department to investigate cases.
The resident safety is paramount. That's the number one thing that we want in our buildings is our residents to be safe.
The city will be holding a public hearing on this very issue tomorrow morning.
Right. So the problem with all these recommendations is the city has no way to follow them. We've got a shortage of police officers. We're 10,000 cops short. And now what? We're going to stick cops in public housing buildings. We're going to start doing that. We're going to take them away from some other area of the city and just give criminals an opportunity over there. All of this is an exercise in futility. And now the city wants to get more buildings under its portfolio. It actually wants more buildings. The mayor says we need to take buildings away from landlords who don't do a good job. And the city itself is going to do a good job. I mean, are we really supposed to believe that? This is the job they're doing right now with the buildings they have.
This guy hasn't stopped pushing the agenda that was exactly what we had expected. He's lived up to all of his radical left-wing promises as far as what he wants to do. It's only 100 days, but he's done quite a bit. I mean, he's talking about driving out the middle class with his property taxes, his wealth taxes, any kind of tax you could think of. If you're walking and talking and breathing, you're going to get taxed too.
Yeah, and they've said it as much. And what's so crazy about that is every single person that voted for this didn't do so with the mayor promising something else. The mayor was very honest that he was coming in as a socialist and that was how he was going to govern. But people voted for that. And I don't know what they were thinking.
Think about what they teach our kids, that America was founded on racism, that our country is rotten at its core, that capitalism is evil, that hard work is for suckers.
Actually, I take that back. They weren't thinking because they don't know anything about socialism. They haven't been taught about how destructive it is. And they all just assumed that because their life might not be perfect, that when the mayor was talking about taxing the rich, he was talking about whoever makes more than them, not less than them, even though this is an arbitrary distinction. And then the mayor comes in and says he wants to raise property taxes. And everyone's like, hey, wait a second, I'm not rich enough for that. Oh no, you are. Socialism says you are. If you have anything, you have any private property, that makes you a target.
We have a problem with just about everything that comes out of his mouth. Look at his cabinet. Look at who he surrounded himself with. These are all radicals.
Right.
These are all, he hates the cops. That hasn't changed. We're going to watch him progress, and he's digging himself into a hole. But what's interesting here is that he is going to find himself belly up.
Right. So the problem here for the new mayor is that he's come in on a platform which he did not hide. Now he's going to enact it, but because people in New York City don't understand what socialism and communism are all about, means they're about to find out. He's going to teach them what it's all about, and they're not going to like it. They're not going to like paying more money for stuff that doesn't benefit them. They're not going to like paying more money for daycare centers when they don't have children. All these programs, none of them are going to work the way they're supposed to. None of them are going to work the way that the people who voted for this imagined in their minds, because they don't even understand how these systems operate. Just like public housing here doesn't operate the way people imagine that it does. It's a total communist disaster. What do you think about that? See you in the next video.
Quickest way to shrink your prostate.
Best way to. Okay, that was Cash first one. A lot of good stuff getting out today. I had no plan, that's why I started at 12 to 3, get 3 hours, and then we're going to go 6. We'll get 3 hours in between. Eat dinner and stuff and all that. So, yeah, we'll go 6 o'clock. Hopefully I can keep that schedule for a while. And we still got another. I got 2 5-minute Trish and a new Vinny video on TikTok and YouTube. So we got.
All right, bye.
3 minutes.
One of my other former colleagues. This is getting embarrassing. I feel I know everybody in TV. It's CNBC, a very good network, and they happen to have a guy on in the morning named Joe Kernan, who is smart. And let me just say, Hakeem Jeffries, I don't think is that smart. And Hakeem Jeffries, I don't think really understands the economy. And Hakeem Jeffries is so proud that he's talked to a couple of CEOs and they're telling him one thing. And the CNBC host, Joe, is like, yeah, buddy, that's not really how it goes. So this was great. This was great. I love it when these politicians that don't understand economics or markets get confronted with cold, hard facts. And Joe sure gave it to Hakeem this morning. Watch.
I talk to corporate leaders all the time, and they're incredibly concerned with the instability and the uncertainty that Donald Trump and Republican policies have created.
Corporate profitability and the economy and profit margins are reflected in what happens in the averages. So in other words, if we're facing a recession, it's unlikely for the stock market to be doing well. We can look at the bond market as well. So I just wanted to show you a couple of charts. One is the S&P, one is the NASDAQ. We're back to all-time highs, basically. And also, I just want to show you quickly the 10-year note or interest rates. If there was a true crisis, you would normally see some type of panic or angst in the bond market. Just in terms of Wall Street, you would not know things are going very poorly the way that you describe it. Things are going pretty well.
Pretty well. Pretty well. I'm just answering one of your chats. This is what you call multitasking in real time. Wade Schultz is asking 4987, and thank you for the generosity, Wade, what my thoughts are on how the British people are doing. We can talk about that a little bit more at the end. I think overall they're pretty fed up. And you're seeing this, by the way, in Ireland as well. People really, really fed up with the sort of status quo and the elites trying to tell them things are going to be better. But, things are certainly not better. And they're looking over at Trump land in the US of A and saying, well, gosh, they kind of got it figured out, right? They're figuring it out. And why are they figuring it out? Because we actually have leadership that cares enough to figure it out. And so overall, we are at a very important sort of inflection point. And an inflection point that is going to have a big effect on the world for generations to come. And we're going to look back on this day and say, thank goodness. Thank goodness. And even though it's tough I don't think it's actually that tough for anyone. I think it's just tough for the Democrats because they're increasingly realizing they have lost all power. I mean, all power. And Eric Swalwell is not helping.
Okay, that's one short one.
NATO is planning a NATO 2.0, if
This
you will.
one is actually
They want to know what
13,
it's going to be
guys.
like to go solo without the United States of America. Money bags holding everything up. And believe me, we are money bags. We spent nearly $1 trillion in 2025 alone on NATO. I think the next closest country was Germany that came in at barely 10% of that. I mean, come on. And then you won't even let us use the bases. So what's happening right now here on the ground? Live from London in the UK, we have learned that the UK is very nervous about the president tearing up its trade agreement with the increasingly vulnerable UK because of Brexit, etc. And they're worried about that. And NATO simultaneously is very, very worried that Donald Trump is going to say, see ya for good, adios, as they say in Spain. Spain's been a real problem, by the way. Reminder, subscribe. It's good to have you guys here. Subscribe, share, make a comment. We are here live. Let's hope it goes well today because you know what? We had a little mishap yesterday. Some of you were able to catch the show on the premiere later, but we had some challenges on the tech front. Not tonight, not today. NATO, right now, trying to plan for a future without the United States of America, because I think it's become abundantly clear we're not so interested in having a future with NATO. Watch the
doing a
president.
great job for the country and for the world. We've had no help, zero from NATO. We're there for them. They're not there for us. You saw the chart that came out a couple of days ago with a big monster red ball. That was us. And all these little satellite balls. And it represented the money spent on military and NATO. And it's ridiculous. And they should have been better. They should have said, we'll send somebody. It's a small operation compared to a big operation. But NATO was not there for us. And what it means, if they're not there for us here, they're not going to be there for us. So why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO if they're not going to be with us? If they're not going to be with us on Iran, they're not going to be with us on a much bigger subject than Iran.
In other words, we hate to burst everyone's bubble, hate to be the buzzkill in the room, but this is reality, okay? I want to show you the chart that he's referring to. Here you see how much money the United States is spending on NATO. $980 billion, which is basically 62% of all the money that they have. They only have 1.59 trillion. We're spending nearly $1 trillion of it. I mean, that's a lot of money. And you look all around at all those other little countries, right? You've got Italy spending 49 billion. You've got Spain with their 36 billion. Boy, they're furious about that one. I mean, they're furious. They don't want to spend anything. You've got Poland at 44, Belgium at, ooh, that's a really teeny little amount there. Was it 14? I can barely see it. It's so small. All right, so this is not a good look. This is not a good look for the world. And especially, it's not a good look when all those places that you're spending money in, like the hundreds of millions of dollars in Spain on those bases that we have there, and we can't even access them? Are you kidding me? So now the president has reached that tipping point, and as a result, Europe is trying to figure out how they're going to go solo. Good luck, guys. Good luck. But you know what? We want to encourage you to do that. In all seriousness, if this is what it takes, it's almost like what we see with the media industry. I mean, the media industry has been collapsing for a variety of reasons that we've talked about, including the fact that, yeah, you can come over here and we can stream and we can actually have a little more freedom and do things in a very, very different kind of way. Well, that's one part of it. But the other part of it is that they only give you the same darn narrative over and over and over and over again, right? It's the exact same thing all the time. And it's, we hate Trump. We hate Trump. He's the next, worst thing since, well, Adolf Hitler. I don't even play a lot of that sound because it gets nauseating after a while and you can only take so much, and it's insulting to history. It's insulting to the millions of people that died in World War II. And it's insulting, frankly, to everyone's intelligence that they go down that path, but that's what they do. And so what has he had to do with the media? He's had to say, hey, guys, you know what? Enough is enough. You got to be a little bit more fair. You got to have both sides. And in having both sides, you get what we call a little pizzazz. Yeah, when you have two sides, it's kind of more interesting. I mean, that's why I do show you things like The View, which I know nobody really wants to see, or Ilhan Omar, which again, nobody really wants to see, but isn't more interesting when you understand the other side and where they're coming from, even if it's idiotic, as it so often is. Well, he's given them the little push, the little hee-ho to get the media industry back where it should be. And maybe you need to give the little push, the little hee-ho to Europe to get Europe back where it should be. If you can. I mean, you got to give it a shot, though. Stand on its own 2 feet, because these numbers are really not looking so good. You see what I got on the screen right there? NATO defense spending. Just another, me, I love charts. What business reporter wouldn't love a chart, right? Like I had to take that other chart and make it into another chart just to see it in a different kind of way. We could do a line chart too, but I just wanted to show you the bar chart, and you can see there, wow, $980 billion, nearly $1 trillion that we're spending. And what are we getting for it? Nothing. And so what we have happening right now, as you consider the pressure on NATO, the pressure on Iran, the pressure that we've put on Latin America, Venezuela included, is you have now this pressure machine, which is saying enough with the passive United States of America. We're actually going to have a role. If we're going to be the hegemonic power of the world, well, gosh darn it, we better act like the hegemonic power of the world, and people ought to pay attention to what we're doing. Otherwise, we're just mom and dad giving out big giant allowances to a bunch of spoiled brats that don't care to work, that don't care to even, come for Sunday dinner. It's like, I think it's time for you guys to get shut off. And so that's what's happening in the here and now. And wow, the Europeans are getting the message. Look at the headline in the Wall Street Journal today. The headline, by the way, in the FT, where I am here in the UK, is that they're very worried Trump is going to rip up that deal that he made, the UK trade deal. And he may. I mean, anything's possible, for goodness sakes. Europe is accelerating a NATO fallback plan in case Trump pulls out. I think this is actually encouraging news. Again, it's getting the kids out of the nest. It's saying, hey guys, you ought to be able to come up with some sort of way to deal with this on your own. You shouldn't have to look at money bags all the time, footing the bill, especially when you keep giving us the middle finger, as you've done over and over and over again throughout this crisis, and as they continue to do. On the one hand, you'll have Mark Rutte come out and say, well, we were just upset because no one consulted us. We couldn't consult you, obviously, because then we would have lost all surprise and we wouldn't have had the success that we have had. So that was off the table from the very beginning. But they're upset because they were not consulted. And they figure because they were not consulted, this is Iran's problem with the U.S. and Israel. They are literally calling it here in the papers, the Israel-American war on Iran. How's that for a setting? So, okay, you guys are going to have to fly solo, see what it's like, trying to take care of yourself and Vladimir Putin over there, who's making a run for Ukraine. I mean, we've spent a lot of money on that, guys, a lot, and nothing to show for it. This is, again, going back to the Wall Street Journal's reporting, a European fallback plan is being put into place to ensure defense using NATO's existing structures. It's gaining some traction because of a apparent buy-in from Germany. I guess Germany is calling the shots because, they're at 10% of what we contribute. And they're next best. A fallback plan to ensure Europe can defend itself using NATO's existing military structures if the U.S. departs is, as I said, gaining traction. The plan gains urgency amid European anxiety over U.S. reliability, given all the threats the president is making, including the threat he made this morning on Maria Bartiromo, my former colleague at both CNBC and Bloomberg. No, she wasn't at Bloomberg. Forgive me. Fox Business. Yeah, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. Anyway, he made these statements to her and once again reiterated his frustration with NATO. So apparently some people over here on this side of the pond are getting a clue. They're getting an idea. The Europeans are now taking a more command and control kind of role, accelerating production of vital military equipment. Finalmente, as they'd say in Italia. Whatever it takes, guys, whatever it takes. But it's sort of funny, right? Last night, the reporting out of the Wall Street Journal was, Europe's really wringing its hands. Europe is actually thinking about having some Zoom meetings and Zoom calls to figure out how they can take over the Strait of Hormuz. It's like, guys, sorry, we did that. Like our blockade happened over 24 hours ago. And you guys are just thinking about getting together on a Zoom call. Well, Laura Ingraham at Fox and her guest had a little bit of fun with that. And I want to show you this clip because they're comparing it basically to a Seinfeld episode. It's like, who's on first, for goodness sakes? Over here, the Europeans are so confused that they're sitting here going, well, maybe we should have a call. Maybe we should have a discussion about what we would do to make sure we can ensure the security in the Strait of Hormuz, all as the U.S. is doing it, right? The American way. Here, watch this.
A steamy, relaxing spa. Soothing eucalyptus bubble bath.
Now, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Europe is drafting a post-war plan to free up the Strait of Hormuz without the U.S. So Macron, Starmer, they're going to be hosting another online meeting of several dozen countries to discuss how best to police Hormuz once the hostilities end. What do you make of this? Is this credible? To me, it just seems absolutely pathetic.
This sounds like a scene from Seinfeld. The Europeans are huddled having a meeting about how to open the Strait of Hormuz one day without the United States. Well, you know what the United States is doing right now? It's reopening the Strait of Hormuz without Europe. The president's already transited the Strait of Hormuz. We have destroyers on the other side, clearing the path for international shipping with more of a naval armada on the way to augment what we already have there. And because we've halted the major military operations, which was the focus of those naval forces along with our air forces, now they can be redirected, repurposed to the tanker convoy missions, protection missions, and deterrence against Iran. The president is doing it on his own without Europe, but we'll remember.
You better believe we will remember. We will remember all of it, right? Who can forget? And I can tell you there's one person who's definitely, positively not going to let us forget. Other than me, right? Because I'm not going to let you forget. But there's one person who's really ticked off and perturbed by the middle finger we keep getting from the Europeans. And you know who I'm talking about.
You know, we spend trillions of dollars on NATO to help them guard really against Russia. When you think of it, we're guarding against Russia. And I've long thought it was a little ridiculous, but we spend trillions of dollars doing it. And I think that's going to be under very serious examination. Thank you very much.
And he walks off. I love that clip. Yeah, it's under serious consideration because here's the reality. We can't continue to afford to just dish out money to no end. I mean, it's just not going to happen anymore at some point. You know what? Push comes to shove, and you've got to say enough is enough. And we have reached that point in time where we have made the conclusion or come to the conclusion that enough is enough.
Okay, that was a little bit long on Trisha there about what some interesting thing on that NATO. Okay, we got a half hour left. God darn it. I did it again. Nine minutes.
Fraud and has skins and skeletons like you wouldn't believe. This man is Justin Fairfax. Justin Fairfax, very powerful Democrat in Virginia, and he was here to fight for equality and gun control for his wife and children. Here's Justin Fairfax wearing a very fancy outfit, getting sworn in as the lieutenant governor of Virginia in a Democrat administration. Here's his wife, so happy. Look at him. This is the cover photo for his social media. He's so excited to be a dad and a father, and here he is holding a little kid, and he's campaigning, and he's doing all the right things. He has the little wristbands and stuff. He's saying all the right woke trash on the campaign trail, and he's even being endorsed by guys like Joe Biden and Barack Obama to become the next governor of Virginia. Look at this. This was during a racism scandal for the current governor of Virginia at the time, Governor Northam. He should resign immediately. Justin Fairfax is the leader Virginia needs right now, says Joe Biden here. All of the Democrats parroted the same thing. Also, you know, Justin Fairfax would do interviews from inside of his house that has giant things painted on the wall. Always a red flag here. Family. Paid somebody to paint family on the wall. All of these nice little photos of him and his family. It's always the people that have to do this that you should be the most suspicious of, because Justin Fairfax has now killed his family and himself in a murder-suicide. Fairfax, of course, the tie-breaking vote to pass gun control in Virginia and red flag laws, just shows how great the red flag laws work. Justin Fairfax has murdered his family and his wife and himself in their multi-million-dollar home amid messy divorce, because allegedly he sexually assaulted other women and raped them. And yikes. Okay. What's going on here? Let's go ahead and read. Embattled former Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, kills his wife and himself inside of their $1 million home outside of D.C. on Thursday. 47-year-old Democrat repeatedly shot Sierna Fairfax in the basement of their Annandale residence just after midnight before turning the gun on himself in another part of the house, according to the Fairfax police. The couple's 2 teenage children were inside of the home at the time of the murder-suicide. Their son called 911. Sister. Those kids are just, could you imagine? Like, those kids are just ruined for life. Get in control of your demons, men. High-profile nature, it's tragic in nature, certainly a fall from grace for the high-profile family that seemingly had a lot of things going in their favor. You never know what's going on, just below the surface. Tragic for the children to lose both parents, extra tragic for them to actually be home when it occurred. So there's a lot going on. Fairfax was seen as an up-and-coming member of the Democrat Party after the 2010s, working on presidential campaigns. Al Gore and John Kerry, he established his career. He was elected in this critical state. He could have been president someday. Some people even endorsed him as president. Abigail Spamberger, the current governor of Virginia and CIA plant, said Justin Fairfax is a true inspiration. I'm honored to receive his endorsement. His energy, tenacity, and passion continue to make the Commonwealth, blah, blah, blah. Great seeing Justin Fairfax, and we just loved it. So much fun.
Almost done.
Great. Life comes at you fast. Justin Fairfax, who once hoped to be Virginia's governor and president, killed his wife and himself. Little kids were a scumbag. The couple were separated and going through a divorce, but living in the same house. Maybe not a great plan. Like, can you afford a hotel? Yeah. Court filing said the couple separated in 2024. So you should probably live separate lives, right? Why did they separate? Well, because Justin Fairfax is the Eric Swalwell of Harvey Weinstein's of Bill Cosby's. That's why. Justin Fairfax, sexual assault accuser, issues scathing statement. Decades of signs. So here we go. One of the women who accused Justin Fairfax of sexual assault expressed grief. He killed himself. First, this is horrific for the children. And, Justin Fairfax has been accused of misuse of state resources in order to sexually assault multiple women in his office, of course. Slew of sexual assault allegations. Sank his career. So it's always the people that you most expect, I suppose. It's awful. I mean, truly. I'm not trying to make fun of it, but geez, dude. Again, get control of yourself. Dumbass. So, second allegation of rape drops against Justin Fairfax. Okay. That may have been the spark, the divorce. The police chief said detectives will figure out what led to the tragedy here. I guess. I don't know. What, are they going to have a recording? Great seeing you at the Central Virginia African American Chamber of Commerce event, Justin Fairfax. Look at this. It's the CIA plant Abigail Spainberger. She's currently in charge of Virginia. Great judge of character. Horrific. Apparently, they're going through a divorce. Justin Fairfax was previously accused of sexual assault by multiple women. Absolutely horrific. What a monster. He could have been in charge of the state, by the way. This is what Democrats do. Justin Fairfax killed the mother and 2 sons. Lift these boys up in prayer. He was nearly governor of Virginia. And he would have been if Governor Northam would have succumbed to Democrat pressure, the blackface scandal, and resigned. He could have been in the governor's mansion doing this. Ugh. Psychopath spent his political career trying to ban normal people from having guns. Now he knows why he wanted innocent people defenseless. It's always these guys, right? It's always the gun grabbers that do this kind of stuff. Lieutenant Governor Fairfax was the tie-breaking vote in a deadlocked Virginia Senate to order the pass of the state's red flag laws. A whole lot of good it did for him being a red flag. The man who pushed every gun control known to man, proved in the end that you can't legislate self-control. Guns don't kill people. Sick and depraved, evil people kill people. Fairfax nearly became governor during Ralph Northam's blackface scandal until the black Democrat was hit with multiple sexual assault allegations. The party decided Northam scandal
Not over.
wasn't so bad after all. Pray for Justin Fairfax. Children. Ugh. Yeah, here he is constantly banging on about gun violence on the internet. Isn't that how it works, right? Democrats are picking up the real winners nowadays. It's always the people that are banging on the most on the internet about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, right? And then it's Eric Swalwell with underage girls. It's always these people, right? So you get feminists like Hillary Clinton. It's always these people, right? I protect the children, Hillary Clinton. No, you don't. No, you don't. Look at this. Former Virginia Governor Justin Fairfax and wife found dead. Wow, they're found dead. How are they found dead exactly? Oh, you mean that he killed his wife and then himself while his children were inside the home? Don't trust the media. Dangerous. Don't believe these people. Actions speaketh louder than words. A lot of them are real creeps. Each book by Neil, like, share, and subscribe.
Okay, I got 1 5-minute from Benny that just came out on TikTok.
Or declassification task force. She says the next thing we're bringing up is MK Ultra. Let's go. We have brought in members of the CIA in the past before Congress regarding MK Ultra, and we kind of just tapped them on the wrist and said, okay, please don't do that anymore. But there was nothing to actually enforce it. So is this still a program? Is this still going on? And there are so many things that people do run with because there are no answers. And so maybe it's grown bigger than it should because there's no transparency. Yes. I want to bring transparency.
You bring up a great point, because we were told there's nothing in the Epstein files, but there's so much in the Epstein files. Right. Actually, as somebody who's gone through thousands of them and tens of thousands, there's a lot. Mm-hmm. There's so much there. And we were lied to and said, to move along, there's nothing there. Yeah, that's not true. Correct. And I think the same thing has happened with Anthony Weiner's laptop. And the more that you follow the story, his wife divorcing him, the Democrat Party deep sixing the guy, right, putting him in jail, like doing everything they possibly can to get rid of him. As far as I know, he's still alive. But there's clearly there's some type of cover up going on there. So you're saying you're going to get it. You're saying you're going to subpoena and get it.
I'm working every angle to get my hands on that laptop. Okay. Absolutely. And
FBI has it. I didn't actually know who has it. So the FBI has it.
Yes. The FBI still has it, but there is no active search warrant, so no one can open it up and turn it on. Maybe if it was, FISA and we're just, warrantless spying on American citizens, we could use that. But for Anthony Weiner's laptop, it's closed.
So I can't not ask a follow up on the MK Ultra request. So that's new. This is, of course, a CIA mind control program, or I guess that's the reductive way of talking about it.
Yes.
What do you expect to find there? They've admitted to this, just in case you're thinking we've gone completely over the edge. No, the CIA has said many times that this is real.
Correct. Yes.
There doesn't seem to be any explanation. I'll go there, Congresswoman. Mm-hmm. There doesn't seem to be any explanation for the guy who shot up Trump. We've gotten no answers on what the hell was going on there.
And I'm not satisfied with that.
Yeah. And like a lot of people, I guess to your point, it does beg the question, what are these people doing? Like, who's controlling them? Like, what's happening here? Maybe it is just a random act of violence. Sure doesn't seem to be the way that normal people behave, like, at all.
Especially when there is no information to follow. I mean, look how many years it took for us to get information on JFK and that assassination and RFK. These are things that I believe there was a deeper meaning behind, and that the government was absolutely involved in this. And is MK Ultra a factor? Are there patsies? I don't know. I don't have those answers, but these are the answers that I want. But it's amazing that the entire federal government apparatus still believes that the American people are too dumb to know the truth. Like, that is the most insulting part of our government. And if that doesn't infuriate you and make you want to do something about it, not violently, but like what I'm doing, I stood up and ran for office. I said, I want to be a part of the solution. I want to be the change. I want answers. I want to bring transparency. I hated my government that much that I wanted to step up and try to fix it. Yes. And to see that so many parts of the government are just like, no, you peasants, you American citizens, sit down. You can't handle the truth. It's very insulting. And I want to bring the truth to the people.
Just in closing here, what do you expect to find? Could you like maybe lay the groundwork? Because clearly progress has been made on the UAP front and the Epstein front, and it took a lot of fighting, and it's commendable. What do you expect to find with MK Ultra?
I really want to see if this program is still being used and what they're using. I mean, decades and decades ago, there were different drugs, LSD and whatnot. We have very different drugs nowadays. Is there a different kind of program? And is it just experimental? Has it actually been put to practice? And I want to see if there was ever a hard line to shut it down. From what I see in the congressional hearings, there was not. It was just, okay, thanks for telling us the truth, and please just don't do it anymore. And maybe we need to have legislation that actually puts a stop to this. But maybe the CIA is too big to listen to Congress at this point.
A government above the government, right? These are the right questions.
Anna Paulina Luna, she chairs our declassification task force. She says the next thing we're bringing up is MK Ultra. Let's go. We have brought in members of the CIA in the past before Congress regarding MK Ultra, and we kind of just tapped them on the wrist and said, okay, please don't do that anymore. But there was nothing to actually enforce it. So is this still a program? Is this still going on? I mean, there are so many things that people do run with because there are no answers. And so maybe it's grown bigger than it should because there's no transparency. Yes. I want to bring transparency.
You bring up a great point, because we were told there's nothing in the Epstein files, but there's so much in the Epstein files. Right. Actually, as somebody who's gone through thousands of them and tens of thousands, there's a lot. Mm-hmm. There's so much there. And we were lied to and said to move along. There's nothing there. Yeah. That's not true. Correct. And I think the same thing has happened with Anthony Weiner's laptop. And the more that you follow the story, his wife divorcing him, the Democrat Party deep sixing the guy, right, putting him in jail, like doing everything they possibly can to get rid of him. As far as I know, he's still alive. But clearly there's some type of cover up going on there. So you're saying you're going to get it. You're saying you're going to subpoena and get it.
I'm working every angle to get my hands on that laptop. Okay. Absolutely. And
FBI has it. I didn't actually know who has it. So the FBI has it.
Yes. The FBI still has it, but there is no active search warrant, so no one can open it up and turn it on.
Chico.
Maybe if it was, FISA, and we're just, warrantless spying on American citizens, we could use that. But for Anthony Weiner's laptop, it's closed.
So, I can't not ask a follow up on the MK Ultra request. So that's new. This is, of course, a CIA mind control program, or I guess that's the reductive way of talking about it.
Yes.
What do you expect to find there? They've admitted to this, just in case you're thinking we've gone completely over the edge. No, the CIA has said many times that this is real.
Correct.
Yes. There doesn't seem to be any explanation. I'll go there, Congresswoman. Mm-hmm. There doesn't seem to be any explanation for the guy who shot up Trump. We've gotten no answers on what the hell was going on there.
And I'm not satisfied with that.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I guess to your point, it does beg the question, what are these people doing? Who's controlling them? What's happening here? Maybe it is just a random act of violence. Sure doesn't seem to be the way that normal people behave, at all.
Especially when there is no information to follow. I mean, look how many years it took for us to get information on JFK and that assassination and RFK. These are things that I believe there was a deeper meaning behind, and that the government was absolutely involved in this. And is MK Ultra a factor? Are there patsies? I don't know. I don't have those answers, but these are the answers that I want. But it's amazing that the entire federal government apparatus still believes that the American people are too dumb to know the truth. That is the most insulting part of our government. And if that doesn't infuriate you and make you want to do something about it, not violently, but like what I'm doing. I stood up and ran for office. I said, I want to be a part of the solution. I want to be the change. I want answers. I want to bring transparency. I hated my government that much that I wanted to step up and try to fix it. Yes. And to see that so many parts of the government are just like, no, you peasants, you American citizens, sit down. You can't handle the truth. It's very insulting. And I want to bring the truth to the people.
Just in closing here, what do you expect to find? Could you like maybe lay the groundwork? Because clearly progress has been made on the UAP front and the Epstein front, and it took a lot of fighting, and it's commendable. What do you expect to find with MK Ultra?
I really want to see if this program is still being used and what they're using. I mean, decades and decades ago, there were different drugs, LSD and whatnot. We have very different drugs nowadays. Is there a different kind of program? And is it just experimental? Has it actually been put to practice? And I want to see if there was ever a hard line to shut it down. From what I see in the congressional hearings, there was not. It was just, okay, thanks for telling us the truth, and please just don't do it anymore. And maybe we need to have legislation that actually puts a stop to this. But maybe the CIA is too big to listen to Congress at this point.
A government above the government, right? These are the right questions.
Anna Paulina Luna, she shares.
Okay, that was this came out just a little bit ago. I'm gonna try to get 3 parts here, 5-minute ones. I'll probably be able to get 2.
They were not invited. They were not announced. They simply showed up. The largest of them is so big and so packed with electronics that the United States Navy has been quietly tracking it for months. The other 2 are heavily armed escorts, the kind of ships China builds to fight other navies, not to chase pirates. And while President Trump was on television announcing a full naval blockade of Iran's ports, while American destroyers were already moving into the Strait of Hormuz, those 3 Chinese warships were already in the water, watching everything, less than 100 miles from where the United States Navy has just promised to stop and board any vessel that has paid Iran for safe passage. This is not a coincidence. This is not a routine deployment. The country that buys 90% of Iran's oil just put warships in the same ocean where the United States Navy is preparing to seize Iranian oil tankers. And the most important question in global maritime security right now is the one almost nobody in mainstream news is asking out loud. What happens when one of those Chinese warships pulls up next to one of those Iranian oil tankers and a United States destroyer arrives to do a boarding inspection? By the end of this video, you will fully understand exactly what those Chinese ships are, why they are sitting in the Gulf right now, what China is actually trying to do with this deployment, and why the next 48 hours could decide whether the American blockade holds together or falls apart in front of the entire world. Let us start with the largest of those 3 Chinese ships, because understanding what it actually is changes everything about how you read the rest of this story. The ship is called Liaowang 1. The name translates roughly to Watcher 1, and the name is honest. This is not a warship in the traditional sense. There are no missile tubes lining its deck. It is not built to sink other ships. What Liaowang 1 is, in the simplest possible terms, is a floating supercomputer the size of a medium ocean liner. 30,000 tons of steel, sensors, antennas, and processing equipment all bolted onto a single hull sitting in the middle of the ocean, listening. To understand what that ship can do, picture a very specific scene. Imagine you are standing on a beach. You can see with your eyes, maybe a few hundred yards down the shoreline. Now imagine someone hands you a pair of binoculars that not only let you see across the entire ocean, but also let you hear every conversation happening on every ship within 1,000 miles, read the radar signals coming from every aircraft within 2,000 miles, and intercept every encrypted military message bouncing through the satellites overhead. That is roughly what Liaowang 1 does, except it does it for a region that stretches from the eastern coast of Africa to the western edge of India. China's Navy refers to the area covered by this single ship as a sensor bubble, and that bubble extends roughly 6,000 kilometers in every direction. It can sense everything happening in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf, across the Arabian Sea, and into the Indian Ocean, all at the same time from one parking spot. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. A floating supercomputer is not a fighting ship. It cannot defend itself against missiles, against aircraft, against attack submarines. So China did not send Liaowang 1 alone. It sent 2 combat ships with it as bodyguards. The first is a Type 055 cruiser, which is currently the largest, most heavily armed surface warship China has ever built. Roughly 13,000 tons, big enough to carry 112 vertical missile launchers built directly into its deck. Each of those launchers can hold an air defense missile, an anti-ship missile, a land attack missile, or an anti-submarine weapon. Think of it as a massive floating missile rack with the ability to engage targets in every direction simultaneously. The second escort is a Type 052D destroyer, slightly smaller at 7,500 tons, with 64 of those vertical launchers on its deck. These 2 ships together carry roughly the same combined firepower as a small American carrier strike group's escorts. That is what is sitting in the Gulf of Oman right now, less than 200 miles from the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. A floating supercomputer with the ability to see and hear everything in the region, protected by 2 of the most heavily armed warships in the Chinese fleet. And every American destroyer enforcing the blockade right now is being watched, recorded, and analyzed by that ship. But here is the problem. China is not just there to watch. China has a very real and very urgent reason to be there, and that reason is sitting in storage tanks all over Iran's coast. China imports roughly 1.4 million barrels of crude oil from Iran every single day. That number, in plain terms, accounts for about 13% of all the oil China brings into its country. Every refinery in Shanghai, every factory in Guangzhou, every truck and bus and car burning diesel in mainland China, a meaningful share of all of it runs on Iranian oil. And that oil moves on tankers. Those tankers leave from Iranian ports. Those tankers pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Those tankers cross the same water where Liaowang 1 is sitting right now. And every single one of those tankers, under the rules Trump announced on Sunday, is now considered a target for American interdiction the moment it leaves an Iranian port or pays an Iranian toll. This is the math that has put 3 Chinese warships in the Gulf of Oman. Iran is China's largest single foreign oil supplier. The blockade does not just hurt Iran. The blockade hurts China at the gas pump, at the factory loading dock. Right now, 3...
That was pretty good. I got 2 parts on that. We'll play later tonight. And Nick just came out finally after a few days off. His is 18 minutes. Doug came out with one, 10-minute one. So, yeah, we're going to go 6. We'll go like 3 hours in between. So, another good show. Thanks, mods. You're okay, Lucy, Fine Eagle, KK. God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please hit the like. Thank you. And stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. Never give up. And signing off, show number 1. Chico Dude, and we'll see you at 6.